Vorig jaar in 2025 zag ik een overleden kat terwijl ik aan het fietsen was naar papa. En we zouden samen eten en ja, die kat die lag aan de kant van de weg, waarschijnlijk overreden en die lag daar in het gras. En nou, dan bel je even aan, stap je in ieder geval van de fiets af, bel even aan en dan zeg je, als niemand thuis is, nou, dan ga je even naar de buren. En als die buren niet thuis zijn, dan ga je even naar die buren. Enzovoort, totdat je iemand zo in de buurt zo aan zijn jasje kan trekken van, hé, er ligt daar een overleden kat. Die is waarschijnlijk van iemand hier in de buurt. Nou, gelukkig deed iemand open en zei, oh, dat is die liep even mee. En dat is ja, die kat ken ik. En die mensen zijn op vakantie. Nou, een beetje verdrietig verhaal. Ik was een beetje later dan bij paps, maar niet dat je, nou, samen gekookt en gezegd van, nou, even. Maar nou is het bij, soms denk je nog steeds aan die kat of zo ik ga niet. En dan kom je terug van vakantie en dan heeft iemand je kat gevonden. Nou, op zich al gewoon goed dat ik dus afgestapt van de fiets en gezegd van, nou, ik ga even, weet je. Maar ik ga natuurlijk niet terug naar die mensen toe om een gedicht voor te lezen. Maar ik had wel echt zo een beetje, het zat me nog niet helemaal lekker of zo. Dus ik wou het even voor me af kunstelen of zo. William Blake, ik kom dus een gedicht tegen van rond 1800. William Blake schreef een gedicht Ode on the Death of a Favorite Cat, drowned in a tub of goldfishes. Ode on the Death of a Favorite Cat, drowned in a tub of goldfishes. It was on a lofty vast site, where China's gayest art had died, the azure flowers that blow. Demurest on the tabby kind, the pensive Salima reclined, gazed on the lake below. Her conscious tale, her joy declared, the fair round face, the snowy beard, the velvet of her paws. Her coat, that with the tortoise vies, her ears of jet and emerald eyes, she saw and purred applause. Still had she gazed, but midst the tide 2 angel forms were seen to glide, the genii of the stream, their scaly armours Tyrian hue, through richest purple to the view betrayed a golden gleam. The hapless nymph with wonder saw a whisker first and then a claw. With many an ardent wish she stretched in vain to reach the prize. What feeble heart can gold despise? What cat's averse to fish? What's cat's averse to fish? Presumptuous maid, with looks intent, again she stretched, again she bent, nor knew the gulf between. Malignant fate sat by and smiled. The slippery verge her feet beguiled, she tumbled headlong in. Jesus Christ, man. 8 times emerging from the flood, she mewed to every watery god some speedy aid to send. No dolphin came, no Nereid stirred, nor cruel Tom, nor Susan heard. A favourite has no friend, from hence, ye beauties undeceived, no one false step is ne'er but retrieved, and be with Caution bold, not all that tempts your wandering eyes, nor heedless heart is lawful prize, nor all that glisters is gold. William Blake schreef oneindig mooie. Waarschijnlijk ken je het meest bekende is een van zijn tekeningen van Red Dragon in de film. Maar je hebt ook To See a World in a Grain of Sand, Heaven in a Wildflower, To Hold Eternity in Your Hand. En The Infinite in an Hour. Nou, zoiets. Zo maar net andersom. Maar ook America, A Prophecy. Reveal the dragon throne, a human coursing swift as fire to the close hall of council where his angel form renews. In glittering armor, swift as winds, intelligent as clouds, 4 winged heralds mount the furious blast and blow their trumps. Gold, silver, brass, and iron clangers clamoring rent the shores, like white clouds rising from the deeps. His 52 armies from the 4 cliffs of Albion rise, mustering round their prince. Angels of cities and of parishes and villages and families in armor as the nerves of wisdom, each his station holds. In opposition dire, a warlike cloud, a myriad stood in a red air before the demon, seen even by mortal men, who call it fancy, and shut the gates of sense, and in their chambers sleep like the dead, but like a constellation risen and blazing over the rugged ocean, so the angels of Albion hung a frowning shadow like an aged king in arms of gold, who wept over a den in which his only son, outstretched by rebels' hand, was slain. His white beard waved in wild wind. As when a dream of Tyrantia flies the midnight hour, in vain the dreamer grasps the joyful images. They fly, seen in obscure traces of in the veil of lies. So the British colonies beneath the woeful princess fade. And so the princess fade from earth, scarce seen by souls of man, but though obscure, this is the form of the angelic land. Infinite London's awful spires cast a dreadful cold, even on rational things beneath, and from the palace walls around St. James, chills and heavy, even to the city's gate. On the fast stone whose name is Truth he stood, his cloudy shield smote with his sceptre the skill-bound orb. Loud howled, till the ancient pillar trembling sunk, an earthquake rolled along the massy pile. On chairs of iron, with mystic ornaments of life by magic power condensed infernal forms, art-bound, the council sat, all rose before the aged apparition, his snowy beard that streams like lambent flames down his white breast, wetting him with tears, and his white garments cast a wintry light. And the world is silent at the flapping of the folding banners, so still terrors rent the house, as when the solemn globe launched to the unknown shore. Then Albion's angel rose, resolved to the cove of armory, his shield that bound 12 demons and their cities in its orb. He took down from its trembling pillar, from its cavern deep, his helm was brought by London's guardian, and his thirsty spear by the wise spirit of London's river. Silent stood the king, breathing damp mists on his aged limbs. They clasped the armor of terrible gold. America Prophecy. Fragments. The shadow daughter of Ulthrano stood before Red Orc. When the 14 sons had faintly journeyed o'er his dark abode, his food she brought in iron baskets, his drinks in cups of iron. Crowned with a helmet and dark hair, the nameless female stood, a quiver with its burning stores, a bow like that of night when pestilence is shot from heaven. No other arms she needs, invulnerable though naked, save where clouds roll round her loins. There are full holes in the dark air, silent she stood as night. For never from her iron throne and tongue could voice or sound arise, but dumb till that dread day when Orc essayed his fierce embrace. Dark virgin, said the hairy youth, thy father stern abhorred, rivets my tenfold chains while still on high my spirit soars, sometimes an eagle screaming in sky, sometimes a lion stalking upon the mountains, and sometimes a whale. I lash the racking fathomless abyss, anon a serpent folding around the pillars of Urtona, and round thy dark limbs on the Canadian wilds I fold. Feeble my spirit folds, for chains beneath I rent these caverns. When thou bringest food, I howl my joy, and my red eyes seek to behold thy face in vain. These clouds roll to and fro and hide thee from my sight, silent as despairing love and strong as jealousy. The hairy shoulders rend the links free, are the wrists of fire. Round the terrific loins he sees the panting and struggling womb. It joyed, she put aside her clouds and smiled her firstborn smile, as when a black cloud shews its lightnings to the silent deep. Soon as she saw the terrible boy, then burst the virgin cry, I know thee, I have found thee, and I will not let thee go. Thou art the image of God, who dwells in darkness of Africa, and thou art fallen to give me life in regions of dark death. On my American plains I feel the struggling afflictions endured by roots that writher their arms into the nether deep. I see a serpent in Canada who calls me to his love. In Mexico, an eagle, a lion in Peru. I see a whale in the South Sea, dark drinking my soul to the wayward shore. On what limp rendering pains I feel thy fire, my frost, mingle in howling pains, in furrows by the lightning's rent. This is eternal death. And this the torment long foretold. America a prophecy. A guardian prince of Albanian burns in his nightly tent. Sullen fires across the Atlantic glow to America's shore, piercing the souls of warlike men who rise in silent night. Washington, Franklin, Payne and Warren, Gates, Hancock and Greene meet on the coast, glowing with blood from Albanian's fiery prince. Washington, D.C. spoke. Friends of America, look over the Atlantic Sea. A bended bow is lifted in heaven, and a heavy iron chain descends link by link from Albanian's cliff across the sea to bind brothers and sons of America, till our faces pale and yellow, heads depressed, voices weak, eyes downcast, hands work bruised, feet bleeding on the sultry sands and the furrows of the whip, descend to generations that in future times forget. The strong voice ceased, for a terrible blast swept over the heaving sea. The eastern cloud rent on his cliff stood Albanian's wrathful prince, a dragon. Foam clashing his scales at midnight he arose, and flamed red meteors round the land of Albanians beneath. His voice, his locks, his awful shoulders, and his glowing eyes appeared to the Americans upon the cloudy night. Solemn Gollum heaved the Atlantic waves between the gloomy nations, swelling, belching from its deep red clouds and raging fires. Albanian is sick, America faints, enraged the Zenith grew as human blood, shooting its veins all round the orbed heaven. Red rose the clouds from the Atlantic in vast wheels of blood. And in the red clouds rose a wonder o'er the Atlantic Sea, intense, naked, a human fire, fierce, glowing as the wedge of iron heated in the furnace. His terrible limbs were fire, with myriads of cloudy terrors, banners dark and towers surrounded. Heat but not light went through the murky atmosphere. The King of England, looking westward, trembles at this vision. Albanian's angel stood beside the stone of night, and saw the terror like a comet, or more like the planet Red, that once enclosed the terrible wandering comets in its sphere. Then Mars, thou wast our centre, and the planets three flew round thy crimson disk, so o'er the sun was rent from thy red sphere. This spectre glowed his horrid length, staining the temple long with beams of blood, And thus a voice came forth and shook the temple. The morning comes, the night decays, the watchmen leave their stations, the grave is burst, the spices shed, the linen wrapped up, the bones of death, the covering clay, the sinews shrunk and dried, reviving, shake, inspiring, move, breathing, awakening, spring like redeemed captives when their bonds and bars are burst. Let the slave grinding the mill run out into the fields. Let him look up into the heavens and laugh in the bright air. Let the enchained soul shut up in darkness and in sighing, whose face was never seen a smile, whose face has never seen a smile in 30 weary years. Rise and look out, his chains are loose, his dungeon doors are open, and let his wife and children return from the oppressor's scourge. They look behind at every step and believe it's a dream. Singing, the sun has left his blackness and has found a fresher morning. On the fair moon rejoices in the clear and cloudless night, for empire is no more, and now the lion and the wolf shall cease. In thunders ends the voice. Then Albanian's angel wrathful burned beside the stone of night, and like the eternal lions howl in famine and war. Replied, art thou not Orc, whose serpent form stands at the gate of Enthymrion, at the gate of Enith Harmon of Pokemon, to devour her children, blasphemous demon, antichrist, hater of dignities, lover of wild rebellion, and transgressor of God's law? Why dost thou come to angels' eyes in this terrific form? The terror answered, I am Orc. I am the best wrath found the accusatory. The times are ended, shadows pass, the morning begins to break, the fairy joy that Urisun perverted to 10 commands. What night he led the starry host through the wide wilderness, that stony law a stamp to dust, and scatter religion abroad to the four winds as a torn book, and none shall gather the leaves, but they shall rot on desert sands, and consume in bottomless deeps to make the deserts blossom, and the deep shrink to their fountains, and to renew the fairy joy and burst the stony roof, the pale religious lechery seeking virginity may find it in a harlot and a coarse-clad honesty, that undefiled though ravished in her cradle night and morn, for everything that lives is holy. Life delights in life, because the soul of sweet delight can never be defiled. Fires enwrap the earthly globe, yet man is not consumed. Amidst the lustful fires he walks, his feet become like brass, his knees and thighs like silver, his breast and head like gold. Sound, sound my loud war trumpets, and alarm thy 13 angels. Loud howls the eternal wolf, the eternal lion lashes his tail. America is darkened, and my punishing demons terrified crouch, howling before their caverns deep like skins dried in the wind. They cannot smite the weed, nor quench the fatness of the earth. They cannot smite with sorrows, not subdue the plough and spade. They cannot wall the city, nor moat round the castle of princess. They cannot bring the stubborn oak to overgrow the hills, for terrible men stand on the shores. And in their robes I see children take shelter from the lightnings, where stands Washington, D.C., and Payne and Warren with their forehead reared towards the east, but clouds obscure my aged sight. A vision from afar, Sound, sound, my loud war trumpets, and alarm my 13 angels, a vision from afar, a rebel form that rent the ancient heavens, eternal viper, self-renewed, rolling in clouds. I shall see thee in thick clouds and darkness on American shore, writhing, writhing in pangs of abhorrent birth, red flames in crest rebellious and eyes of death. The harlot womb of oft opened in vain heavens in enormous circles. Now the times are returned upon thee, devourer of thy parent. Now thy unutterable torment renews. Sound, sound, my loud war trumpets, and alarm my 13 angels, a terrible birth, a young one bursting. Where is the weeping mouth, and where the mother's milk? Instead, those ever hissing jaws and parched lips drop with fresh gore. Now roll thou in the clouds. Thy mother lays her length outstretched upon the shore beneath. Sound, sound, my loud war trumpets, and alarm my 13 angels. Loud howls the eternal wolf, the eternal lion lashes his tail. Thus wept the angel's voice, as he wept the terrible blast of trumpets. Blew a loud alarm across the Atlantic deep. No trumpets answer, no reply of clarions or of fifes. Silent the colonies remain and refuse the loud alarm. On those vast shady hills between America and Albanian shore, now barred out by the Atlantic Sea, called the Atlantean Hills, because from their bright summits you may pass to the golden world, an ancient palace, archetype of mighty empires, rears its immortal pinnacles built in a forest of God. Very the angels rose, and as they rose, deep thunder rolled around their shores, indignant burning with the fires of Orc, and Boston's angel cried aloud as they flew through the dark night. He cried, why trembles honesty, and like a murderer, why seeks he refuge from the frowns of his immortal station? Must the generous tremble, and leave his joy to the idol to the pestilence that mock him who commanded this? What God, what angel, to keep the generous from experience till the ungenerous are the unrestrained performers of the energies of nature, till pity is become a trade and generosity a science, that man get rich by, and the sandy desert is given to the strong. What God is he? Writes laws of peace, and clothes him in a tempest. What pitying angel lust for tears, and fans himself with sighs? What crawling villain preaches abstinence, and wraps himself in fat of lambs? No more I follow, no more obedience pay. So cried he, rending off his robe and throwing down his sceptre.